Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. It is a Thursday edition of the show. We're saving our best for last. We're going to talk about one of the most important matchups for Bucs versus Raiders. Of course, it is that the Bucs must stop Brock Bowers. Outside of Bucky Irving, outside of Jaden Daniels, and outside of Bo Nix, Brock Bowers has been one of the best rookies in the NFL and has been a menace, especially in the passing game, which has been a huge issue for the Buccaneers. So if the Raiders are going to pull off an upset, it will be with Brock Bowers getting most of the damage done. But we're going to talk about how the Bucs can stop them, give you updates from the facility today, talk about injuries, and of course, get to some comments and super chats as well. I'm your host, Matt Matera, joined with me for the second day in a row, my fellow colleague and also co-host on Thursday shows, Adam Slavon. Adam, what's popping?
Matt, it's going great and excited to do the show with you for a second time this week. Never really get an opportunity to do so. So continuing our discussion from yesterday, if you haven't checked it out, we had some great insight on the preview show yesterday, kind of talking about all the Raiders' talent. But Brock Bowers is so good that we got to talk about him for a second day and kind of break down just how are the Bucs going to stop him, because there's been a long list of tight ends who have had success this year against the Bucs, from Travis Kelce to Foster Moreau and really anyone in between. So,
yeah, the infamous Foster Moreau, of course, shredding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yeah, it's been time and time again. And when you look at this with tight ends attacking the Buccaneers, and when you look at this matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders, I almost said Oakland, but I didn't. I was thinking about Las Vegas. And these teams haven't played since the 2020 season when this game took place in Vegas. Originally supposed to be a Sunday night game, but then something happened with an illness to another team, and they moved the Bucs out because of it. But that was the infamous Scotty Miller touchdown late in the game. Obviously, they had Tom Brady as quarterback. So they haven't met in a little while. It's been quite a while since the Raiders came to Tampa Bay. I believe the last time the Raiders won in overtime against the Bucs. But the Bucs are a favor in this matchup. They should win, but if the Raiders are going to win, it's going to be because of Max Crosby on defense and Brock Bowers on the offensive side of the ball. But Adam, you just talked about some of the tight ends that have shredded the Bucs already. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's one thing when it's Travis Kelce, but, even Tommy Tremble last week with the Panthers, we saw that as well. So you want to go into a little bit of more detail on how some of these tight ends have eviscerated the Bucs this season?
Yeah, so I went back and did some box score research, and it's not good for the Bucs against tight ends this year. So while they stopped Zach Ertz and Sam Laporta early on in the season, Ertz had 28 yards. In the season opener, Laporta was held to 13 yards. Ever since they faced Dallas Goedert, although the Eagles didn't have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown in that game, Goedert had 7 catches for 62 yards, and it's all gone downhill since. Kyle Pitts, we mentioned yesterday, he turns into a different animal when he plays the Buccaneers. He had 7 catches for 88 yards. Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson, back when they played the Saints, combined for 5 catches, 102 yards. Mark Andrews, on that Monday night game, he had 4 catches, 41 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts again faced the Bucs and had 4 catches for 91 yards. Travis Kelce, 14 catches, 100 yards. George Kittle, 3 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown. And then, as you mentioned, Tommy Tremble, 5 catches, 77 yards. So they've really made tight ends look like wide receiver ones. And now you're facing someone in Brock Bowers who plays like a wide receiver one. Larry Foote today, he mentioned that Brock Bowers really is kind of that wide receiver in a tight end body. I mean, he has the build, he's dynamic, and he creates separation, like Foote mentioned, comparable to Rob Gronkowski. And that's quite the comparison. It just shows how good Bowers is. And really, he's that next tight end after Kelce to really kind of lead that position for the next decade.
It very much seems like it. And there's been a couple of tight ends over the past couple of seasons that have tried to take that mantle. Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, and they're very talented tight ends. And they're good tight ends. I'm certainly not disparaging what they do. But Brock Bowers in one season, it very much feels like it's the next Kelsey, Gronkowski, Tony Gonzalez, Jimmy Graham, where, all the guys that I just mentioned, yes, their position is tight end, but they're more than just a tight end. They're essentially another receiver or another skill player, option number one or target number one. And it doesn't matter that the tight end label is slapped on them. They're putting up the same production, if not more production, than a wide receiver. And I think it's very scary when you talk about the Gronks and the Kelseys of the world. And Kelsey in his prime, he's obviously taken a little bit of a step.
Yeah.
But, it's one thing when you have a speedy receiver going down the field. Like, okay, you can put your speed receiver on him, or you have a safety back there. Just don't want to get beat deep. But when you can't guard someone because they are just more physical than you and they're athletic on top of it, there's only so much you can do. Like, even some of the top receivers, like, Julio Jones in his prime, Calvin Johnson, Mike Evans in his prime, like, they can bully you to a degree, but not the way that a tight end can go just take over a game and get those yards after the catch. I mean, that's one of the things I think we loved about Gronk. I didn't love it when he was on the Patriots, but he did with the Bucs to a degree as well. Just being a guy that can, it's yards after the catch, but it's a catch 10 yards down the field that you have guys on your back that you're carrying another, yards. And it very much feels like Brock Bowers is going to be that next guy. So really the big question is, that Bowers is going to do it, or at least you plan on it. Yeah. Can the Bucs get away with just, you see it in basketball at times, like you let one guy just completely go and pop off, but if no one else does anything else, your team should still be fine. Like, for those that watch the college basketball national championship with UConn and Purdue had that really tall guy, Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Like 30 points in the game, but no one on Purdue did anything else. So UConn was fine, and they won their second national championship in a row. Football's very different, though. Like, if Brock Bowers scores 4 touchdowns in a game, the Bucs may not win. Now, obviously, it's very difficult to score 4 touchdowns in a game, but can the Bucs get by with Brock Bowers still popping off and they can still win the game? Or is it take him away at all costs? Obviously don't bounty gate injure him and stuff like that. But take him away at all legal costs and you'll be fine. Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, I think, that's a good point. And if Brock Bowers should get 100 yards receiving, which, he's probably likely to do. He's done it 2 times in the past 3 games. I still think the Bucs can win because really he's their only weapon. It's really Bowers and Jacoby Myers, and you would assume Myers probably gets locked up by either Jamel Dean or Zion McCollum. But you mentioned something that I wanted to talk about a little bit more with Bowers, and that's his ability to get yards after the catch. That's something Larry Foote mentioned today, Todd Bowles mentioned yesterday, and that should be concerning because you saw what Kyle Pitts did twice against the Bucs this year. He catches a ball down the middle of the field, and the Bucs just aren't in position. And all of a sudden, he's getting all those yards after catch and able to find the end zone with regularity. So that's the concern with Bowers, is just his talent and the ability to really stretch the middle of the field. That's the Bucs' weakness. So you kind of wonder who's going to stop him on defense, because it's not going to be KJ Britt. We've seen that many times this year. And even with him being injured, you kind of wonder if the Bucs would have more success playing one of his backups, someone a little bit more athletic like J.J. Russell, Vi Jones. And you also kind of wonder if the Bucs play more having a safety in the box. And if it's not Mike Edwards, if he can't go because he's day-to-day with a hamstring injury, would it be like Kayvon Merriweather or Ryan Neal? Or what kind of the matchup would be? You'd almost want Tyke Smith going from the nickel and kind of playing inside more to stop Brock Bowers. But any way you slice it, even if you double team him, he's going to have success. He's going to find ways to really get open. And the big thing here is making the Raiders one-dimensional. And I think the Bucs should be able to do that quite easily, really. The Raiders have the last ranked rushing offense. They're the only team in the NFL without 1,000 yards rushing this season. They're only averaging 78 a game, 3.7 yards per carry. They're not having success in the run game. So You know the Raiders are going to pass. Who are they going to pass it to? Brock Bowers. What do you do to
Yeah.
stop that? Double team them, triple team them, do something. So I think that's really the Bucs game plan and how they really need to attack it.
Right, and that's the other angle of this is, the Bucs are already going to rely on Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea. We know they're the two best, arguably one of the two best combinations in the league at defensive tackle, but also two best pass rushers on this team, two best guys on the defensive line in the trenches on this team as well. So if you can stop the run and set up Las Vegas in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8 situations, well, that changes the game as well because okay, they have to pass it. All right, let's triple team Brock Powers, for all we care. As long as he doesn't get the football, force Myers and some of these other guys, some of these other unproven players. Myers, of course, is proven for sure. But some of these other players that, are maybe only on the team because they traded Devontae Adams and are kind of in a rebuilding phase for better or for worse. If you can get in those 3rd and long situations, you know where the Raiders are going to go with the football, and you can game plan and attack it accordingly. Hezo813, a YouTube channel member, says Bucs defense not capable of stopping Bowers, but unfortunately he can't beat the Bucs by himself. Hopefully, I'm not totally confident in that. And then the other part of it is, and you talked about Tyke Smith, will it be Tyke Smith going up against Brock Bowers? Will they try Levante David? We'll get to the injury report in a little bit. Not sure if KJ Britt's going to play. Would it be JJ Russell?
Yeah.
Do you sacrifice the size for the speed or sacrifice the speed for the size? And given how the Bucs have defended other tight ends, they haven't been successful. You might as well try something that you haven't tried before.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Levante David, even if he's maybe lost half a step this season, he still probably has to be the linebacker to cover Brock Bowers just because Levante David, he hasn't let tight ends really beat him in the way that KJ Britt and other inside linebackers have this season. So you pair somebody with Levante's like mental aptitude with somebody in the secondary that's able to keep up with him. Really, I think that's how you would go about it. And Tyke Smith, really, he's going to be the X factor for Sunday's game because without him, I mean, not only will the Raiders probably have more success throwing Bowers' way, but that takes away a playmaker, really, on the Bucs defense that they've sorely missed. I mean, Matt, you have to go all the way back to week 6 against the Saints for the Bucs defense to really have an interception. And you had Antoine Winfield Jr. scoop and score. Like, that is unbelievable. And the fact that nobody in the secondaries really stepped up, I mean, somebody has to, and they have to do it this week. Otherwise, Aiden O'Connell, I mean, you saw Bryce Young do it last week. He had 298 passing yards. Aiden O'Connell could have a nice game on Sunday.
I'm starting him in fantasy football this week, Adam. I know it's crazy to say, but hear me out. I have Bo Nix. He's on a bye.
Yeah.
I had Trevor Lawrence. He's on injured reserve. I had Dak Prescott. He's out for the year. So I was going with Bo Nix. I didn't even realize he had a bye this late in the season because who the hell has a bye this late? So
I know.
I need to win to get into the playoffs. I know it's insane. There weren't a ton of other quarterbacks available. Kirk Cousins was available. Not going to do that. Aaron Rodgers, not going to do that.
Sadly.
I said, screw it. I'm going to go with Aiden O'Connell because the Bucs have proved time and time again that they'll make bad quarterbacks look good. So you know what? If he pops off, I'm going to pat myself on the back and be like, well, I was right. The Bucs defense let everyone down again. And if they finally get it together, I'll be very happy for Bucs fans. So it's kind of a win-win in this situation. I do have Mike Evans, so if Mike pops off, that will be big as well. James Morgan said, wait, why are we even worried about a 2-8 team? Well, I mean, look at the game against the Panthers last week. That was a team that won 3 games. They have one more win than the Las Vegas Raiders. What happened in that game? The Bucs had to scratch and claw to win. They were down by 3 with 30 seconds to go. Thank goodness the timeout hoarder, Todd Bowles. Now, you should hoard timeouts in the second half, just to be clear.
It's a good idea.
First half, call timeouts essentially whenever you want. I mean, try to maybe only use one in the first quarter or save them all for the second quarter, but don't sacrifice a 5-yard penalty by electing not to use a timeout. Second half, you want to keep them until the end for those exact type of situations where You had the ball and you're trying to score and tie it up, or maybe you need to get the ball back and call those timeouts. So, but anyway, my point being, they were down 3 points with 30 seconds to go. They were an inch away from losing in overtime before the fumble happened. So to say that the Bucs shouldn't be worried about a team that literally just took the Chiefs last week and barely lost to them. They only lost by 2 points. Every game is serious for the Bucs down the stretch, and every game, as Baker Mayfield talked about yesterday, as many players spoke about this week, every game is a playoff game. So it's win or go home. So it doesn't matter that it's a 2-win team. We're talking about a team that fights hard, that plays for their coach, Antonio Pierce, and that kept it close with the Chiefs last week. And the Bucs had a close game against a bad team as well. So I think there's a lot of reason to be worried about it. And also James Morgan, who just had the last comment, follows up with another one, says, here's some wisdom for you. Don't miss tackles in the open field. That I agree with a ton as well. Open field tackle specifically has been a big, big issue for the Bucs this season. Now, they cleaned it up last week. Will that continue? Hopefully, because they can't have that if they want to make a playoff run.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it was you that mentioned that they had, during their 4-game losing streak, 46 missed tackles in those 4 games, which is like 11 and a half a game. That's inexcusable, and that's not how you're going to win football games. And just like the point you mentioned about the Raiders being a 2-10 team, not even a 2-8 team, they're worse than that. They're 2-10. There is still a worry level there just based on last week against the Panthers. Sure, they beat Tommy DeVito and the Giants. I think really anybody could at this point, to be honest. I mean, they've packed in their season and the Big Apple, but the Las Vegas Raiders still have a lot of fight in them. They have a hard-nosed coach in Antonio Pierce, a hard-nosed player in Max Crosby that really anchors that defense. Even though they're not doing well defensively, they just don't have the talent. They still play hard and they play through the whistle, and that could be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' downfall come Sunday if they're not ready to match their physicality. And they really need a balanced offensive attack with Bucky Irving, the rookie sensation, and also Baker Mayfield to really take control of the game early, take control of the time of possession, and really force the Raiders to go one-dimensional where they need to throw it. And then to the point of like containing Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, then it gets a lot easier. You don't want the Raiders to hang around in this game all 4 quarters. You want to make it in the first half. Bucs fans and the crowd, they're chanting Bucky. They're going crazy, and the Raiders really can't keep up.
Well, on that notion of crowd noise and cheering, we have a 1999 super chat from Black Gold 1999. So thank you very, very much for the kind words, who says, why was it more San Francisco fans at Raymond James Stadium than Tampa fans? Talking about the last home game for the Bucs. Let's not let let that happen this week playing the Raiders. Adam, you were at the game. What was the crowd noise like for that one?
So I remember it was a big sea of red, but the red was a lot more McCaffrey jerseys than really any Bucs player outside of Baker Mayfield. And you kind of saw that maybe playing a little bit of a factor. The crowd, the 49ers crowd, they started to really get into it as they went on to win the game. And so really you can't have a bunch of black and silver in the crowd again with all the Raiders fans. So the Bucs fans really need to go out and show out. And again, the Bucs need to give them a reason to cheer for. It's a double-edged coin there.
Yeah, right. Like if your team is doing well, the crowd will be louder. If if you play like they did against the 49ers, you're going to hear from the road team. It's the same thing when the Bucs went to New York / New Jersey and played the Giants. There were a lot of Bucs fans yelling at the end. Like that's all you heard on the screen. Now, I hate to break it to some of the Pewter people, and a lot of you already know this, but Raiders fans travel very well. They're one of those teams. It's the Cowboys, it's the Packers, the Steelers, the Raiders. I think you can put in there as well. Yeah, old school teams for sure. I throw a lot of Northeast teams in there too, but they travel very well. So I actually would expect a lot of Raiders fans there for this game. The only difference is that they're so out of it that I mean, I don't know. If you're making plans like before the season, it's like, hey, you want to go to Tampa in
A
December?
pirate battle?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, to watch your favorite team, like that kind of would make more sense. So I think there'll be a fair amount of Raiders fans there, but also home field advantage hasn't really been a thing for the Bucs this season.
No, you have to
I
go
believe
way back to when they last won a home game.
Yeah, I mean their home record this season is 2-4. They're better on the road. They're 4-2 on the road. They're 2-4 at home. So it's not exactly like the Bucs have been killing it at Raymond James Stadium. It's not like it's been a huge home field advantage, but you play well, you quiet the Raiders fans, and the Bucs fans will be louder. It does help as well that the Bucs are going to be wearing their red jerseys, their pewter pants and red jerseys. It's the first time they're doing that this season. Remember, the other time that they wore red, they had the white pants. So good to see the traditional Bucs uniform being worn for this game. It's also what they wore in the Super Bowl when they defeated the Oakland Raiders at the time for the first ever Super Bowl in Bucs history. Then, of course, their second one came a couple seasons ago against the Chiefs. So teams that play in the same division. The Bucs love playing against the AFC West. Now, I don't know at the time what division the Raiders were in, because remember, the Bucs were in the NFC North for a while, or whatever it was called then.
NFC Central.
NFC Central, where it was them in Tampa, Florida, and the Packers, the Lions, and the Bears. So who knows where the Raiders were at that point. But nonetheless, Bucs like playing against AFC West teams in the Super Bowl. Of course, Super Bowl games get you up and going, much like a Celsius energy drink gets you up and going. We love Celsius. It's the best energy drink of all time. And there's so many great flavors. I love the Arctic Vibe. Can't go wrong with the Tropical Vibe either. So check out all of their flavors, like the sparkling watermelon lemonade. And you can have, if you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, go to the Celsius store locator on their website. Punch in your address. It'll tell you the closest place where you can pick one up. Might be a Walmart, might be a Target, could be a GNC, a Publix, a Walmart, a Stop and Shop, or your bodega.
Bodega.
Get the horns out for the bodega. And after you keep going to your bodega, you know you love Celsius and you want more. That's when you can go to Amazon, buy it in bulk. I'd recommend the variety pack because there's so many fantastic flavors of Celsius, and you have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. We have another super chat to get to. Thank you,
Eric.
To Eric Moreno for the $5 super chat, who says, I heard Evans, Wirfs, and Bucky were good to go. Tyke practicing today. Is Anthony Nelson okay for Sunday? Edwards, Britt probably ruled out. Tyke on Bowers is huge. Yes, I'm very fascinated to see how the Buccaneers will go about defending Brock Bowers. The injury report for Thursday just came out a couple minutes ago. As always, we will start with the Buccaneers. A lot of the same, but a couple of different designations. KJ Britt, ankle, did not practice. Mike Edwards, hamstring, did not practice. Mike Evans. That's tough. You put Mike Edwards and Mike Evans right next to each other. Yeah. I guess they're probably going alphabetical anyway. Evans did not practice, dealing with that hamstring and calf. Greg Gaines, ankle, full. Will Golston, knee, full. Troy Hill, this is one of the downgrades with the foot and knee injury, downgraded to did not practice. Bucky Irving, hip and back, did not practice. Baker Mayfield, Achilles and knee, full. A couple of upgrades. Let me upgrade you. Well, actually, one's an upgrade. Anthony Nelson, shoulder, limited. Trey Palmer just put on the injury report today with a hip injury, limited. Tyke Smith, limited again. That's a good sign. Joe Tryon Shoyinka, limited. Marquise Watts, full. Tristan Wirfs did not practice once again. And then quickly for the Raiders, Nate Hobbs did not practice. Alexander Madison, limited. Jordan Meredith, full. Jacoby Myers, ankle, did not practice. Aiden O'Connell, illness, did not practice. We'll have to pay attention to those two. Amir Abdullah, former Detroit Lion great, as we established on yesterday's show, practice in full. Justin Shorter, back, did not participate. Zamir White, quad, did not participate. So, I know we talked about it on yesterday's show. Mike Evans, the wide receiver, I look at that as more of just a rest day. Just get him ready for the game. Like, let's remember, it is December, and a lot of these guys are banged up. We obviously know the injury history that Mike has had for this season specifically. Edwards and KJ Britt are the two biggest ones, I think. That will make a difference with the defense. I know KJ Britt, sometimes it's a little bit of addition by subtraction, but Edwards, for sure, I think kind of mixes up a lot of things that Tampa Bay planned to do, even though he's only been here for 2 weeks. I think Edwards, that is most concerning. And Tristan Wirfs, again, one of those things, like, just get him to the game on Sunday. I'm not really worried about how much practice time he necessarily needs to have, because if anything, hindsight's 20/20, but man, if they rushed him back for this last game and then he re-aggravated something and he's not able to go against Max Sidney Crosby, I know his middle name's not Sidney, but against Max Crosby, that could really, really come back to bite the Bucs, as good as Justin School has been, ever since the Detroit game.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of like the list of injuries when you look at Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, Tristan Wirfs. Them not participating, I think, is more of a case of the Bucs really just wanting to rest their best players down the stretch. And Baker Mayfield with his injury, he's a grinder. He's going to be out there on Sunday. So you kind of look to who didn't participate. You mentioned Mike Edwards. Even in just a short span with the Bucs, he's their highest graded defender by PFF. And he's really versatile on the back end. And I think he does provide a lot of good things for the Bucs defense. So keeping an eye on him. Tyke Smith, the fact that he didn't downgrade and he's still a limited participant, you would think he's ready to go in some capacity this week. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I'm curious to watch him because he was a limited participant both days this week. But if he's back, and Anthony Nelson being also limited, if he's back, how that snap count really kind of changes, because you had your snap count analysis this week and you kind of mentioned that Anthony Nelson could be the starter going forward based on he always seems to make the right play at the right time. And Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I don't know if he does that just as much as Anthony Nelson, who's also the Bucs' leading sacker from the outside linebacker position. Matt, how do you kind of see that unfolding between the two?
Yeah, that was a big thing with this last game against Carolina, is that, like, Yaya Diaby played over 90% of the snaps. It was the most snaps or percentage of snaps that he's played in a game in his NFL career. Now, it's still a young career, obviously. He's only in his second season. And Anthony Nelson was around the 70 percentile as well. I want to say 73%. So that speaks a lot to that they didn't really want to give extra snaps to Chris Braswell. He even saw less snaps. He was at 22% or whatever it was. And Jose Ramirez, who I thought, okay, he's going to have an impact. He's going to do something. No. He played 7 snaps in the whole game. Yeah. He played 7 snaps in the whole game, defensively, I should say, because he'll get in on some special team stuff as well when he is available. So Todd Bowles, we've talked about before, doesn't have all of the highest of trust in a number of players. He's either all in or he's all out. There's not the hey, let's let him test the waters a little bit. It's either all in or all out, which I don't totally love. So with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka coming back, if he is available, I mean, how do you not reward? I'm trying to find the right words, because what I want to compare, it's not the same. Now I'm thinking, Little Wayne, we are not the same. I am a Martian.
Yeah.
And it was on Alien Day the other day. But, like, okay, let's take, for example, Sean Tucker, when he had the great game against the Saints, and he won NFC Offensive Player of the Week and all that fun stuff. He was still a second-year player that barely played at all as a rookie and really had barely played this season up until that point. A couple snaps here and there, doing kickoffs, but didn't have a big role. So for the Bucs to not immediately go back to him and stick with Bucky Irving and stick with Rashad White, you get it. You understand it because there's proof in that pudding, if you will. But for the Bucs, you have Yaya on one side, who I haven't lost faith in Yaya for his overall career with the Buccaneers, but I've lost faith in Yaya for this season for him to step up and make a big play. I mean, we're in December. He has 2 sacks. He's had plenty of time to get over the ankle injury. Enough is enough. We got to call it like it is. We can't keep waiting for Yaya to turn the corner. I want to turn the corner when he's on the edge, getting around the tackle and getting to the quarterback, but he's not turning that corner fast enough. Anthony Nelson is the only outside linebacker that's making plays. Yes, sometimes it's sheer luck. But that play on Chuba Hubbard, that was fundamentals. That was tackling the football, not the player, and he ripped it out. This guy has won a Super Bowl with this team. He's the only outside linebacker that has won a Super Bowl on this team currently. So would I play Anthony Nelson over Joe Tryon-Shoyinka? Hell yeah, I'd play Anthony Nelson over Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Or I'd at least play them an even amount, and then you can kind of dip in Chris Braswell here and there. The big caveat in all of this is where Marquise Watts plays into the mix. Because when everybody was healthy, he still didn't have that much of a role. But at some point, and I get, like, Guy has been good stopping the run. And JTS, I still think is solid to okay as a player. He's clearly better as like a backup guy. But Marquise Watts, in my opinion, is a guy that should be getting a couple of looks when he's able to come back, because at least he can go after the passer. You know, if they're not going to do that with Chris Braswell, it can't be 90% of Yaya Diaby. Yaya Diaby is not Myles Garrett. He's not TJ Watt. Yeah. So if you want to spread it around a little bit, but yeah, in my opinion, Anthony Nelson should be the starting outside linebacker opposite of Yaya Diaby.
Yeah, you make a solid case for him. And when you kind of look at it, I think the time to test the young outside linebackers was early in the season. At this point, with the team really being a must-win mode, you want to play guys you can count on. And you can count on Anthony Nelson as that veteran in such a young room. And the decision really not to play Chris Braswell, at this point, you must know internally what you have in him, because he's not seeing the field. Marquise Watts, though, I think should maybe more on third down passing situations, because he does have the ability to get after the quarterback. And so it makes sense to maybe get him some of Braswell's snaps. Or if you're not playing Jose Ramirez, maybe give him the extra 7 snaps. It was funny. I talked to Jose yesterday, and I was like, you got 7 snaps in the last game, like kind of talking about him developing behind the scenes. And he's like, man, I got 7 snaps. That's more than I thought.
He's a funny dude.
He is a great dude. But if you're choosing not to play him, I mean, I think the depth chart should probably be Diaby, Nelson, JTS when he comes back, and Marquise Watts, and let the young guys, I guess, just continue to develop, because you want players to make plays, and Nelson's shown the ability to make the plays most out of any of them.
Yeah, and for Braswell, remember, he's a second-round pick, so like the Bucs have a lot invested into him. I think he's been okay when he's been in. He's not obviously getting the sack production that you want. But, you know, when he's playing 30% and stuff like that, let me look it up real quick. The most amount of defensive snaps.
His snap count was very comparable to Yaya Diaby as a rookie last season. Yeah. I think Braswell actually had more snaps, but lately I think he's gotten less, which is kind of telling.
Yeah, like that last game, he definitely had way less. There's no
even
doubt
without
about
JTS, which is surprising. You think they'd play a little bit more, but
yeah, so the last game, he had 21%. That was the low. That's tied for the lowest that he had with week 2 against Detroit. I mean, the week before he had 44%. And then he kind of averaged around the 30s. He had 31 against the 49ers and the Chiefs, 34 against the Falcons, 36 against the Ravens, 39 against New Orleans. The most he's had, actually, believe it or not, the most amount of snaps he's had in a game was week 1 against Washington. He had 42% of the snaps. Atlanta 41, and then against the Giants 44%. I guess that kind of makes sense because the Washington game, at least late, and the Giants game throughout was a blowout, so you want to get him some more opportunities. But he only had 15 snaps last game, and that was with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka out and with Marquise Watts not even available to be, you know, presumably the guy that would kind of step up with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka out. So
yeah,
I don't think it's that they're losing faith in Chris Braswell, and the production isn't totally there, but it's in a limited amount. Like, he only has half a sack on the season. But if you're not going to use him at all, like, how could you watch the preseason game against the Jaguars where Jose Ramirez had 3 sacks in the game? And I know, preseason, 4th, 5th string guys, whatever. But he finally gets a chance to, I mean, he's barely played the season. He's only been dressed a couple of times. And he's got a chance to, like, really do something. And you play him 7 times, and you play another guy. Sorry, my hair's all over the place. You play another guy over 90% of the time. Like, I don't know. Scott said he's not a big fan of George Edwards, the outside linebackers coach. I find it hard to believe that on a defense that's struggling in really every area besides defensive tackle, for a team that's not getting sacks from their outside linebackers, you're just not going to try any other options. And then on top of that, Bowles is committed to these hockey shifts of, okay, you get this drive, you get that drive. No. If you want to play Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I would be fine if you want to play Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Anthony Nelson on 1st and 2nd down, and then you bring in Yaya and Marquise Watts on 3rd down if it's a 3rd long situation. I really would. And you can do that every single drive and keep everybody warm and everybody in the game and everybody focused. But he won't do that, and then you wonder why the Bucs have one of the worst pass coverage defenses in the league and why they're not getting production from their outside linebackers.
Yeah.
It's right there.
It's simple. And what's interesting, though, is like the fact that you have all these outside linebackers and maybe 1 or 2 of them are on the outside looking in. Why doesn't one of them maybe play alongside Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea up front? And Logan Hall, he isn't doing much. You would think maybe somebody of a bigger profile like Jose Ramirez or Marquise Watts. I mean, Marquise is small, but even on 3rd downs, maybe just swapping them out and you have 3 outside linebackers. JTS is a solid run defender. Yaya Diaby's a solid run defender. Maybe experiment just a little bit more. I think that's something that Todd at least needs to try, because Todd, as much as he might be a defensive mastermind in some aspects, I think his stubbornness overall to make personnel changes is what's really coming back to bite him when you look at the Bucs defense at this point.
There's no doubt about it. And he experiments everywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Like, he drops back Vita Vea into coverage. He loves dropping back his outside linebackers into coverage. Why not move them somewhere else? Let's get to a couple of other comments. This one from Pewter Report YouTube channel member Callum Shaw. Thank you very much. Says, defensive line tackling has been terrible. So many missed sacks. Then off-script plays. The Bucs always fall flat on their face. That is one thing. As much as the defensive line has been good, sometimes they get out of their gap assignments, even on pass rushes. And that's why, you saw Bryce Young score a touchdown last week, is because you break contain and then bam, there's the open lane and you're scoring. So I like to see that cleaned up. Obviously, O'Connell doesn't run that much and isn't that mobile, but hey, you never know. A patch of grass, a green grass in front of you and nobody around, anybody can really take advantage of that for sure. Also, Callum Shaw says, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if it was Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, I mean, if they had a little patch of grass, they're going to make the most of it. But you mentioned like the defensive tackling and like not able to get to the sacks. And you mentioned Bryce Young. I just still find it astounding that they had 11 quarterback hits last week, but 1 sack. There were so many instances like Yaya Diaby. He had like 4 pressures and he was half a second from getting a sack. Like, that's frustrating. And you get the technique down. You're able to beat the offensive tackle or offensive guard, but you can't bring them down by that much. That's frustrating. And the Bucs could really have so many more sacks when you look at it. I think it's more bad luck than anything, but.
Yeah, it is. It's very close, but no cigar. And that's happened at times last year and happened a little bit this year. Callum Shaw says, 100 in the chat. Hit the likes, folks. Yes, please do. Good reminder, Callum. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, all of that fun stuff. JB with a good comment says, Nelson is our next iteration of William Golston. Hope he's a lifetime Buck as well. I can totally see that because Anthony Nelson is a solid backup player. He's pretty good in his role. You see him in the picture there on on the left side. He makes some splash plays in the moment, like he did stripping the ball from Chuba Hubbard. But he's not going to make big money in free agency. And I think he's a guy that's, happy with his life. Him and his wife just had their second child. He's getting paid pretty well to play in the NFL. I can see him being like, I love living in Tampa. He knows what he likes. He knows what he doesn't like. He's enjoying it. He probably is okay with his role. I mean, everyone wants to start, but if you're going to be a backup, I mean, he's kind of defying the odds a little bit too, right? Like you heard Todd Bowles talk about it this week. He's like, hey, he's not the biggest guy. He's not like physically imposing. He just kind of gets the job done. And so why not? If you got a good thing going, don't try to break it up. It's not like he's a superstar edge rusher and there's going to be a ton of teams calling for him. Just, collect a good paycheck, do a solid job. And yeah, I mean, there's a soft spot in the hearts of Bucs fans for Will Gholston. I mean, Will's obviously not going to the Hall of Fame. He's probably not a Ring of Honor member, but he's a guy that will get a round of applause and a standing ovation at Raymond James Stadium whenever he retires. And they're like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Will Gholston. And, hopefully Anthony Nelson can do that too.
Yeah, I love that comparison, JB, because you kind of look at it, and Anthony Nelson, he's a third or fourth outside linebacker. He's never really going to be that one or a two. But when he does need to play and get those starting reps, you can rely on him to, occasionally make a play. And Will Gholston, really before the last couple seasons, he was really consistent in doing that. When you put him on the field as a rotational guy, he's able to, hold his own. And I think Anthony Nelson does that, maybe despite some of the limitations that keep him from being an every down player. But you also look at it and you're like, maybe he could play in the NFL 10 years. And he kind of seems like that just definition of a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. At least while Todd Bowles is the head coach, I think Anthony Nelson sticks around with the team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe so too. He's 813 said, Bowles is very loyal to his guys to a fault. Keith Armstrong would still be here if he didn't retire. Well, there's a reason why Keith Armstrong had to retire. I don't necessarily know if it was Todd Bowles' call, but there were others in the organization that were ready to move on for Keith Armstrong. So it was like Clyde Christensen. Clyde Christensen retired, but he didn't really retire. He was going to get fired. And then, resigned because of it. Anyway, Jeff the Champ said, this is a good question. Anyone know what the beef was with the Panthers safety, Ramirez and Sterling Shepard in the tunnel after the game? Yeah, so there was a video. I'm not sure who the Panthers player was, but he tried to get to like the side of the tunnel after the game where the Bucs won. And he was like, "I'm my mama. I'm going to get you 33. And I was like, 33? Like maybe if it was Jordan Whitehead on his first run with the Bucs, that would make sense because like Whitehead plays a lot. But it's Jose Ramirez. Like he's not on the field that much. I didn't see anything with Sterling Shepard, but Baker Mayfield's called Sterling Shepard crazy, and then I'm sure a lot of Bucs fans have seen the video of Sterling Shepard going crazy after the Mike Evans touchdown, being like, Mike, mother effing Evans. Like, nobody doesn't like him. So I can see Sterling Shepard talking some smack to the other guys, but yeah, I don't know anything specifically of what happened.
Yeah, it's even more confusing because it's a Panthers safety. Darius Miller, he pointed out Sam Franklin. Why would a defensive player be talking about Jose Ramirez? Like, they don't even play like on the field against each other, unless it was special teams maybe, and they just got into it, but really bizarre. But I know Jose Ramirez at the same time, his personality, it could maybe get somebody the wrong way if they're not on the same team.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Jeff the Champ says there's another video of Shepard yelling at the dude. Yeah, that kind of checks out a little bit more.
Yeah.
We have a $5 super chat from Eric Moreno. Thank you very much, Eric, who says, Greg Allman reported on X, said Wirfs is fine for Sunday. Is Scott Reynolds? Haven't heard from him in a while. Yeah, Scott's okay. He's taking care of some stuff with his family at the moment. He might be on the Pewter Insider tomorrow. Not 100% sure. But he's okay. I don't really want to comment on it. If Scott wants to, he can. But Scott's fine. He'll be on for next week as well. But yeah, he's doing okay. Thanks for the concern. And Tristan, yeah, I mean, he's clearly not 100%. But if you can just get him to the finish line on Sunday, he's going to do everything in his power to play.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Matt, I don't know if you saw the story that Josh did about the block of the year from Tristan Wirfs, but the fact that
Yes.
he was able to get to the second level and just lay somebody out on one leg, I mean, that speaks to, I know we mentioned Vita Vea at one point returning after just missing a game from,
Right.
I think it was an MCL sprain too. But with Tristan Wirfs, like both of them, they're just behemoths, and they're like natural, like just beasts that are able to overcome these serious injuries and still lay somebody out. So I think Wirfs, with all that said, he's a tough cookie. I think he's going to play on Sunday and still hold his own up against Max Crosby.
I think he's going to play as well. And I think Tom Pohl said it best, right? On yesterday, he was like, Tristan Wirfs is better on one leg than most people are on two. I mean,
he's not lying.
Yeah, exactly. If that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what will. By the way, I mentioned the Pewter Insider a moment ago for Pewter Premier and Platinum members. The Pewter Insider will be taking place tomorrow at 1:30 for Pewter Platinum and Premier members. The topic will be, can the Bucs catch the Falcons in the NFC South? Obviously, that race is heating up. I said I wasn't going to talk about it until the Bucs did something, and now they are doing something. So we are going to chat all about it. Yeah. And of course, we will answer any questions and comments that you have. So if you can join us live, fantastic. We look forward to chatting with you. And if you can't join us live, we'll obviously put an update on our community member board. And if you want to write your questions in there, we will address it on the show. And then you can watch it at a later date at your leisure. So that will be coming up tomorrow at 1:30. On Sunday, we will have the Pewter pregame show. That is on at 9 a.m. We'll preview Bucs versus Raiders. We'll get into a lot of the individual matchups, like who's going to be guarding Brock Bowers, who Baker Mayfield should worry about as far as defensive players for the Raiders, besides Max Crosby, obviously. And we'll get into everything for that matchup. That's about a half hour to a 45-minute show. So if you can join us live, again, fantastic. If not, you can watch it at any time, but, once the game starts at 1 o'clock, I don't know if you really want to watch a pregame show because the game's happening at the moment. But, if you can't watch it live at 9, you can watch it at 10:30, 12, whenever. And then, of course, the Pewter Game Day show takes place at 1 o'clock. It'll be myself and Josh Capo on the call. Josh is back after being at the game in Charlotte. Although, Adam, it was great having you on for the last one as well. But it'll be myself and Josh. We react live to every single play, give insight, analysis, things we've watched on tape, things we've heard from players in the locker room during the week, and all that fun stuff. So would love if you guys could join us because it's a great time every week. It's more fun when the Bucs win. This is a game that the Bucs should win. And even if they don't, misery loves company, and it's fun to, talk about the issues with this team as well. But we'd rather talk about the issues of the team after a win. So we got a lot of that fun stuff coming up. Also, I talked about the YouTube show. Let's give a shout out to all of our Pewter Platinum members. Thank you to Scott Federico, Rathel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Eric McMillan, and Zach Jarvis. Thank you all for being Pewter Report Platinum members. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you for the Pewter Insider taking place tomorrow. Another thing I want to talk about that we haven't mentioned just yet, but the greatest offensive player in Bucs history, Michael Lynn Evans. Also a great guy. He was nominated once again for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. This is the fourth time he's been the Bucs nominee. He was it for 3 years in a row from 2019 to 2021. Then Will Golston was the nominee in 2022. And Antoine Winfield Jr. was the nominee last year in 2023. So 2024, it's back to Mike Evans. He will get to wear the Walter Payton Man of the Year logo starting this week and for the rest of the season. And hopefully Mike can win. But what a great honor. I mean, Mike has done such a great job in the community, just having an impact. The Mike Evans Family Foundation is fantastic. For those that don't know the Mike Evans Family Foundation, it's a foundation obviously founded by Mike and his wife, Ashley. And they help families and bring awareness to domestic violence and families that have issues with domestic violence. They also provide scholarships for seniors in high school that are looking to go to college. They've actually given this year over $170,000 to 15 different students that will be able to use that to go to college. They have Catch for Kids, which every catch that Mike makes for every yard and every touchdown he gets, money is donated to good causes in the area. He's very helpful with his hometown of Galveston, Texas. He has a football camp in Galveston, Texas. He provides toys for underprivileged children during Christmas time. So Mike just does everything. He's a fantastic human being. He has a couple charity events throughout the year, both in Galveston and in Tampa as well. And just great to see Mike get acknowledged for all the great stuff that he does year in and year out on the field, but more importantly, off the field. So just wanted to give a shout out to Mike Evans, Adam, because I've covered Mike for a couple of years. I haven't covered him for as long as Scott has. You've been able to cover Mike for the past 2 or 3 seasons as well. And the figure that he is and the presence that he has in Tampa, it's awesome that he's a great player, but it's 10 times better that he's a fantastic human being.
I think that's very well said, Matt. And you kind of look at his career, and yeah, he's an underrated player on the field, but I think what's even more underrated is just the impact that he's had in the Tampa Bay community. And you mentioned that foundation. It's something that started in 2017, so it's been around for a while. It hasn't just been a few seasons that Mike's done. That's pretty much his whole career. And the fact that he's able to give back to the community in the ways that he has. You mentioned all the scholarships and the amount of money that he's raised just through various auctions, the Met Gala. He does so much, and I think that's something that deserves recognition. So him getting that recognition, being able to wear that patch, I think that's something that is very deserving. I think Mike is the most deserving guy for it because he's able to impact the community, not just with his play on the field, as great as he's been, but just also in the ways that he gives back. So very well said.
And hopefully Mike can win it. So every NFL team has a player nominated, and then they all get to go to the Super Bowl. Hopefully Mike will be playing in it. But they announced the winner at the NFL honors the night before. So hopefully he can win it, and then he gets to have that on his jersey every year for the rest of his career, which would be great. And the more you get nominated, I think the better that you have a chance. And a lot of times they do like to kind of give it to higher profile players. So I'm actually not sure who's represented from some of the other teams, but I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than Mike Evans. So hopefully Mike can win. A big congratulations to him. And of course, Mike has donated a lot of money to a lot of good people. One thing we didn't mention is, with the recent hurricanes that have come through, like Hurricane Helene, Mike's been big with donating to them as well. He has the funds to do it, of course. But if you want to donate to
funds, though. And but another thing to actually use your funds, use the platform that you have to give back at such a large scale. And I think that's what Mike does. And that really is unique with a lot of players because they get those big 7-figure contracts, but they don't give back in the ways that guys like Mike do.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And Mike is generous with his money. He's also smart with this money. And if you want to be smart with your money, you can use Muni Financial.
At Muni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Muni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
That's right. Muni Financial has proudly been serving clients across the country since 1980. They can help you with a number of things like advisory services, investment banking, insurance services, sales and trading. They can also set up a college account for your kid if they plan on going to college. And they have Muni Financials all over the place. Obviously Tampa, obviously Colorado, as you've seen from the video. They have it in Mike Evans' home state of Texas. You can go to Montana or wherever in the United States, and there are Muni Financial buildings. So give them a call today. Get a free consultation. Doesn't hurt. might as well give it a try and see how Immuni Financial can help out you. All right, as we wind down the show, another thing that's quite interesting is with the Bucs playing the Raiders, there was an infamous moment a couple of seasons ago that directly impacted both Liam Cohen and Bucs starting quarterback Baker Mayfield. Of course, it was the first game that Baker Mayfield had with the LA Rams, where he came in on short notice. It was a Thursday night game, and with very little preparation, Baker ended up orchestrating a game-winning touchdown drive with not a lot of time left and had to go over 90 yards down the field. Pretty much had to go the whole length. It was an incredible moment, and in many ways sparked what happened next of Baker eventually signing with the Buccaneers, doing what he did last season, getting the big contract with the Bucs. Dave Canales goes to the Carolina Panthers, and the Bucs hire Liam Cohen as their offensive coordinator. And now Baker and Liam Cohen are doing what they're doing this season. Kind of a cool butterfly effect, and it's kind of been brought up to Baker and then Liam Cohen today, just kind of based on them facing the Raiders.
Yeah, it is a cool moment, and it really has had a ripple effect, not just on Mayfield's career, but Cohen's career as he's come on to be the Bucs offensive coordinator. It's kind of interesting that if Mayfield maybe didn't have that moment, he wouldn't be in Tampa Bay. Cohen wouldn't be the play caller, and where would the Bucs be? So very interesting, and you kind of go back. I remember watching that game live, and Cohen kind of talked about today just his thoughts about what Mayfield was able to do really on like 2 days. Like Mayfield came in at midnight. They talked about some things until like the wee hours of the morning, got back up at 6 or 7, went at it the whole day, just kind of going over Sean McVay's really offensive system, which isn't really probably the easiest thing to learn on the fly. And Mayfield was able to do that just enough to get a touchdown and help them beat the Raiders. So a really cool moment. And I think that was the true moment of Mayfield reemerging as an NFL quarterback, because you saw that play and his brief cup of coffee after just such a tumultuous season in Carolina. You're like, he still has it. So the Bucs, they gave him that 1-year contract, and really the rest is history. But that's the origin story, and that's a very cool one.
For sure. And I think people just want to root for Baker, unless like you're a Texas fan, horns down, of course. But everyone else like wants to root for Baker. I'll do both hands, horns down.
Oh yeah.
Unless I'm betting on them. But I don't know, Baker. I think people like him. They like the chip on his shoulder type of guy, the guy that's willing to do anything to win. And I hope he doesn't have a game similar to that, because I don't want the game to be close. I want the Bucs to win by a lot, where he doesn't have to have a game-winning drive. But yeah, it was cool to relive that moment. It's cool to see what Baker and Liam Cohen have done together this season. By the way, we have a comment from Nathan Elliott. Matt and Adam, hey, I guess we're invited. You have been invited to the Tacos and Tequila tailgate prior to the game on Sunday. Lot 12, gates open at 9:30. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I will be doing the Pewter pregame show on our YouTube channel, so unfortunately I don't believe I'll be able to attend. But you're going to the game, Adam, so maybe do some shots of tequila before you get into the press box. Just be on your best behavior after. But thank you very much, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan,
for the kind invitation. Maybe on another, maybe not like the day of the game, but a day before the game, could be interested. Joel Elrican says, "Go Bucs." Thank you very much for being a Pewter Report YouTube channel member. Speaking of tequila and tacos, you can get tequila and other great food and drinks over at Walk-Ons.
What an amazing comeback, Coach.
You're not kidding. I mean, we did lose the game badly, but coming to Walk-Ons afterward, the team got a much-needed win off the field.
Walk-Ons for the win.
That's right. Shout out to Walk-Ons. There are 3 locations where you can go and enjoy all of their great happy hour deals, like all-day happy hour on Tuesdays, bunch of different drink deals. The food's fantastic as well, like the fried pickles and the Boom Boom shrimp queso dip, $3 happy hour pours. And game day specials. If you want to watch college football on Saturday or the Bucs and the other NFL games on Sunday, awesome game day specials at Walk-Ons. Michelob Ultra, Bud Light, and Budweiser pints of $4.49 or the 22-ounce for $5.99. You got Heineken Silvers and Neutrals for $5 as well. You can find them at 3 locations, either in Lakeland, in Wesley Chapel, or in Midtown, close to Raymond James Stadium. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Reminder, Pewter Game Day show coming up on Sunday, along with the Pewter pregame show earlier on Sunday at 9. Game Day shows at 1, and we'll have the Pewter Insider tomorrow at 1:30. But that's it for today's show. For Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Out.
Have a great weekend, everybody.